What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Also, unbeknownst to me, because I'm old, wacky, and, well, let's just say old Rand's got a few issues, huh? Not as good as I once was, but I'm good once as I ever was. However, that's beside the point. It's also Women's History Month. This is one of my favorite months for women wrestlers. You should know. Brought to you by Premier Pro Wrestling. I am Randy Ritchie, and today we're going to talk about, well, she used to be a friend, an old friend. Her wrestling name is Rain. That's how you guys would know her, Bonnie Maxson. So I first came across Bonnie and Lacey, and it was very hard to talk about them, Rain and Lacey, as individuals because they were joined together at the hip. They broke in the industry. One was 16, one was 17, and they looked out for each other. They looked out for each other pretty well. But I don't know, man. I don't know a lot of guys today that have the moxie that those two had, doing things like traveling together as teenagers from Minneapolis, Minnesota, to some of the long wrestling shots that they took. Now, I knew Bonnie was trained by Eddie Sharkey. And Eddie Sharkey is, his reputation is beyond reproach. You know, been there, done that, responsible for helping so many wrestlers, you know. But I didn't know, and I guess I should have known, or maybe I did know and forgot, she was also trained by Horace the Psychopath. And for those of you that don't know who Horace the Psychopath is, very underrated wrestler, very underrated. And that would make sense because I'll tell you, even as kids, Bonnie and Lacey, and we're not talking about their appearance, in that ring, they were more believable and better than a lot of the guys on the rest of the card, you know. Here's the issue, and it was just about timing. If Rain was 18, 19, or just young today, with so much more opportunity for female wrestlers, I'm not saying she's old, so don't go down that road. I'm not saying that. She'd be a formidable female wrestler. I mean, she would be a household name. There just wasn't as much opportunity then. And aside from that, the one thing is that Lacey and Bonnie loved wrestling, with capital L, loved wrestling. And everybody loves wrestling when they get into it, and you learn how to do a handful of things, and sometimes you can even get decent. But the thing is, you need somebody around to smarten you up. Smarten them up means finish their education. Help them with the next level of their education. I think Eddie was too old, Eddie Sharkey. And I also know that Eddie was very, very well schooled in the way wrestling was in St. Paul or in the AWA territory. You know what I'm saying? Who could smarten them up at the time? And you've got to look back there because, you know, these are times when no one was really around to do that. And the ones that were around, I've seen it happen. A lot of people hit on those girls even when they were teenagers. And I really was impressed with also the way that Bonnie handled herself when it came up to that as just a teenager. You know what I mean? Anyhow, when I was at Impact Wrestling, and I don't know, I'm probably never going to get credit for it, but it was myself and Zeb Coulter, a.k.a. Dutchman Tao, who incepted the knockouts. And what that was basically to make female wrestling more than just a sideshow, jello matches, mud matches, ass shaking, negligee battle royals, ba 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 ba. And some ROH people showed up at a taping once in Orlando. Bonnie was there and Lacey was there. And I said, holy crap, Bonnie, I'm going to take you and introduce you to Dutch and also to Terry Taylor, who they might have known at the time, but they didn't know well because they knew that Bonnie and Lacey, if she could have wrapped her head around it, were perfect for what we were trying to do, you know. And, you know, the proof in the pudding is they immediately started something with her within a few weeks, working, you know, a little storyline with Bobby Roode. She appeared as a plant on the October 18, 2007 edition of Impact, holding up a huge white sign with black letters reading off, President of Robert Roode Fan Club. She continued to appear in the crowd with pro-Roode signs for the following 2 weeks. She was officially referenced on the November 1st edition of Impact by TNA announcers, where she also had a stare down with Rude's former valet, Miss Brooks, or Tracy Brooks, in the aftermath of a match on an edition of Impact. After Miss Brooks and Rude defeated Chris Harris and Gail Kim, Brooks was about to leave the ring when she attacked and started a cat fight with Maxson. Following the altercation, she was seen from far distances all around the TNA Impact Zone. She was referred to as Miss Brooks Stalker by TNA commentators Don West, God bless his soul, and Mike Tenay. She appeared on the January 10th, 2008 edition of Impact and attacked Brooks. Subsequently, Rude announced that she had been replaced by Maxson under the new name Miss Peyton Banks, later tweaked to Peyton Banks, resulting in a feud with Brooks. And a match at Against All Odds where Brooks came out on top at Destination X. Banks was part of the Stand By Your Man strap match where she was in the corner of Rude and Brooks was in the corner of Booker T. The match stipulation dictated that the loser of the match would have their valet whipped with a strap. Here's the thing, man, and you can see this poor thing. She was so young, and she did not reek of confidence. I left Impact or TNA shortly after this thing was started, and Dutch had plans, and it would have been outstanding considering the participants, Tracy Brooks and Rain. That would have been outstanding, but the problem there was Dutch kept trying to do things that made sense, and then Dixie Carter and her crowd from Old Miss would do everything they could to poo-poo it. And you can see they were off to a great start. Dutch Mantell, Zeb Coulter, one of the most successful bookers and creatively of all time, especially of this era, started off with a real nice slow build there. And then somebody got involved and pumped the brakes and just used her as fodder for Miss Tracy Brooks. Well, they could have got a lot of mileage out of that one, considering, again, the participants. Anyway, I've never been the type to creep, ever since I've got daughters. I had daughters, my first daughter in 1992, I kind of changed things. I was never like a real dirty pig or anything like that, or a prevert, but I was a healthy bull of a young man, a strapping young man, if you will, but with a lot of common sense when it came to respect for women. I learned early on in wrestling and also, I guess, in other industries that I've been involved with. Shit where you eat, and I certainly wouldn't have been a guy that would be trying to hit on the 16 and 17-year-old girls that were, trying to make their way in wrestling. I was more in awe of the balls that they had to travel even from Minneapolis to Green Bay to do wrestling events, just to learn, just to be that hungry. And I also didn't want to ever exploit them. They wrestled for me in a couple of occasions, and they always deliver, and they're always great together, especially Bonnie, But, I lose touch. I don't keep in touch, and your wrestlers. We didn't really do that because we didn't really have social media, come to think of it. But also, at some point you're going to run into each other down the road. There was never any tearful goodbyes, blah, 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 blah. So, it just kind of was like everything else for me where it slipped away. And I did send Bonnie, I think, a couple of direct messages over the years. Nothing really comes to mind as to what it was. Something to do with business, I'm sure. Or maybe to check in, But I do understand that Bonnie is married and very happy and living in Hawaii. That must have been awesome. If you've never experienced a Minneapolis winter, you'll know what I'm talking about. No wonder she's happy. And her and her husband have a child. And this is probably another reason why she has dipped out of the wrestling industry. And I didn't even know about this, so I'm glad I looked into it. On February 14th, 2014, Maxson was involved in a serious automobile accident caused by another driver who was texting while driving. She suffered severe injuries to her legs and abdomen. Due to the injuries sustained in the accident, Maxson was forced to take hiatus from wrestling, which lasted over 3 years. But then again, 4 years later, on December 15, 2018, she married Alaki Key. The couple have a son together, and Maxson is half owner, co-promoter of a wrestling promotion in Hawaii, which is pretty cool. But from what I understand, man, she's happy. I also know she's involved with fitness. She's got her own kind of fitness brand thing going. So I'm going to go ahead and share at least her Instagram in these, subscription and also the Wikipedia link. And be cool, like and subscribe here. And, if we can add to Bonnie or Miss Maxson or Peyton's, followers, man, let's do it. All right, woman wrestlers, you should know, March 4th, 2024, I'm Old Rand, and before I sign out, take a look in the description of how you can help support Premier Pro Wrestling.